Before it was, I'm gonna teach and I'll coach
Right.
to make extra money. When do you start seeing that transition? Is it something that before you took over, or is this a culture you cultivate over time?
It's definitely cultivated over time, and I'm not gonna sit here and try to fabricate something. It's something that I've had incredible help doing. It's not a one-man show by any means. The 2015 group, not only did they have success at the high school level, but then also at the college level. And because it was local, everyone still felt very connected to it. So I really do feel like that took the program to another level. And then once we reached that next level, you started to attract some really quality people. There's pressure in coming to play at Bosco. It's a little bit of a different animal. One of the things I had said recently, and I say it often, is it bothers me when people say things such as, oh, it's like a college program. And it bothers me because it's not. We're a high school program. We have young teenagers in our program. If it was a college program, they would be 21, 22, 23-year-old players. But we have young kids. We have young kids going through their own kind of identity states and learning who they are. And we're trying to be more attentive, not only to the things that I had mentioned just prior, but also more attentive to them taking on the added pressure of coming to our program. Because the other thing that's unique about our program is our kids are competing every day. It's practice, we're competing in practice. And we're trying to get our kids, or our little bit of a saying is, get them comfortable with being uncomfortable. So we want to challenge kids, but we also want to be very supportive of them as well.
Yeah, because all right, well, let's get into it now that we're kind of talking. So I think when you and I were talking before, and you were kind of alluding to how you ended up at Bosco, because before you took the program over, it kind of seemed like baseball was not their priority as much as football, right? Because we look at Bosco, they just tend to be known for historically football-related program.
Right. Yeah, so when I was actually coaching at Rockland Community College, we were always aware of Bosco baseball. It had some really good players, and obviously they won a national championship in '08 under Coach Butler, and they had some really tremendous talent that was there on the scene. And I had said recently that one of the coaches that was really a guy that laid some of the foundation for the program is a gentleman named Leon Matthews, who I've never really crossed paths with. If there's one thing I'd like to do is cross paths with him at least once in the near future and shake his hand, because I know that the efforts that he made to move the program into a really powerful Northeast baseball program, they were significant. And then other coaches were there, but they had a lot of turnover with the coaching staff. So I think that turnover and that, let's just say, inconsistency at the leadership position of the head varsity coach, I think that hindered the program's ability to really have more of a long-term plan, so to speak. I think everything that had occurred in regards to the turnover in coaching, some of it was just the natural occurrence of life. There was a job promotion, a coach moved away, another coach retired, so to speak. So I think if there was one fortunate thing that I was able to come in and do, is just create a little bit of consistency and have more of a long-term approach to it. And that really came from the support of the administration, who I had said recently, they could not have been better to me, and continue to this day. Even though it's a different administration, they're still incredibly supportive. So the football program was incredibly successful. The football program continues to be very successful. But I feel like the consistency in the coaching staff, and it's not just myself, it's also the staff all the way from the freshman to the varsity level, it allowed us to create a little bit more of a long-term plan for success. And I think that's really been the key to, let's just say, the success we've had.
I feel like coaching high school sport seemed to be like something that's really transient, or something that a teacher or gym teacher would do to earn extra income, not something that they're passionate about. What I've seen now, especially with your program, is that people are coming in to coach first, then find a way to teach second. Before it was, I'm gonna teach and I'll coach
Right.
to make extra money. When do you start seeing that transition? Is it something that before you took over, or is this a culture you cultivate over time?
It's definitely cultivated over time. And I'm not going to sit here and try to fabricate something. You know, it's something that I've had incredible help doing. It's not a one man show by any means. I would tell you in about 2015, I think things started to really kind of turn for us. We had an incredible season. We had some obviously incredible players that elevated the program. We were 29-1. We actually lost in the state championship, but it elevated the program and it just started to create a little bit more consistency where it felt like year in and year out, we were going to be competing for a league title. We were going to compete for a county championship. We were going to compete ultimately for a state championship. And I think that those players, Cullen Dana, Josh Shaw, there's so many to name. Like they just kind of took it to another level for us. And then they went on and had such success, like so many others, but these guys really had such success at the college level, and it was local. It was Seton Hall, it was St. John's. So I feel like the 2015 group, not only did they have success at the high school level, but then also at the college level. And because it was local, everyone still felt very connected to it. So I really do feel like that took the program to another level. And then once we reached that next level, you started to attract some really quality people. Brian Jalalia is a fantastic example of what I'm saying. He's our assistant varsity coach right now. He's invaluable to us. I could never pay him enough, and the school could never give him enough thank yous for all that he does and the work ethic that he puts in. And he really fits exactly what your question is. He was somebody that coached at a public school, left on his own accord, and then came to us and started to make coaching at Bosco, as much as of a priority as other things. And I think that type of passion, the reason why it just works so well is because myself, Mike Dwyer, Jim Wadika, we were the three varsity coaches at the time, and the three of us feel that same way about the program.
So can you talk me through from 2011, we're just going to go to history of the program a little bit, to that 2015. What did you do leading up to turn the program into that program in 2015? Like, what is something that you kind of remember that you're like, okay, we did this, and this is why 2015 turned out to be a pretty good or great season for us?
Right. I think one of the things that, when I say we, I'm talking first and foremost about Mike Dwyer and I, because we started together, and Mike was someone that I literally wanted in our program from day one, once I was able to secure the position. And when I reference we, it's Mike and I in the early stages of 2011, 2012. And then it kind of becomes we, Mike, Jimmy, and myself as we move into that 2015. So I think the biggest thing that happens is you really need to self-diagnose what your limitations are. And in a sense, I tried my very best to address some of the weaknesses that I believed I had, and also listen to some critics that you might have as well, which of course we all do. So one of the things I really tried to focus on is just from the onset being very, very easy to communicate with, and having really open communication with players and with parents. I wanted to be very clear that the players are the priority of the coaching staff, and they are the priority of the school. And what I found was the conversations I had with Ed Blankmeyer, who was my college coach, the conversations I had with some other friends who had been successful in coaching at the high school and then also at the college level, it really always came down to making sure it was clear that it was a player first environment. I've never gone out and actively or openly solicited support, whether it be financial support or anything from people. What I've always done is I've invited them in somewhat to our circle to just see the level of passion, the level of commitment the level of work and hours that we put into this. And then my thing is, your time is really the most valuable thing. So I go back to some of the parent volunteers that we've had over that time, and they deserve so much credit, because as much as the Bosco program is judged on whether it's championships, wins, losses, whatever it might be, for me, it really is judged on the type of character of our players, the effort level that everyone involved in the program puts into it. And then, of course, are we putting kids at the college level? And then, down the road, now that I'm a little bit older, you really feel good when you see these kids come back, when they have children, when they're trying to get involved, or asking to get involved in the program in some way, as they're all of a sudden now in their early 30s. So over time, 2011 to 2015, I think it really came down to allowing people to see how passionate, allowing people to share our vision and our goals for where we wanted the program to go, what we needed in order for the program to achieve the certain level of success that we've been fortunate enough to have. And I do think also looking inward to see what are some of the things that I need to address to be, a better head coach, a better leader of the program, whatever that might be. And a little self-reflection. And the thing that makes a good coach is good players. I think the thing that makes a great program is going to be incredible, in my case, incredible supporting assistant coaches, and then some really wonderful people on the outside who are willing to roll their sleeves up and get involved in achieving the goals that you clearly state you want the program to move towards.
So based on our, again, previous conversation, I remember when you were telling me that when you first got an opportunity to coach at Bosco, you didn't jump at the opportunity immediately. You kind of had to think it over and do some diagnosis. What was something that you actually set out for you to do for the program that you can say, as you sit here today, that you say, hey, we actually set that out and this is now our standard? Before it was just a goal, now it's a reality.
Understood. The two-part answer to that was to be self-reflective and to look at myself and say, what are some of the things that I need to do in order to be, in all honesty, more approachable, and to have people be more comfortable around me, because I'm a little more reserved. I'm a little bit more of an introvert than some of my colleagues. My approach is probably a little bit more, let's say, one-on-one than in a group setting. So I wanted to make sure that what I was trying to communicate was being communicated. And when I reflect back as a teacher, one of the things that I kind of learned from a teaching perspective is, listen, it's not like, okay, I taught this. You have to really evaluate, well, what is being learned? So I wanted to be very conscious of, how am I in regards to a coach? Am I like the coach that I had that I didn't like that much because of XYZ 1, 2, 3? Or am I more like the guy that I really enjoyed being around? And in some cases, your own self-perception is not really accurate.
Yeah.
So that was something that I wanted to do for myself. In regards to setting up the program for success, one of the things that I kind of chuckle at a little bit is, as adults, we sometimes throw out this really vague, ambiguous language to kids, right? And we talk about what we want and this idea of culture and whatnot. But listen, you can write something on Instagram, or you can put something on a wall, and you can every day at practice have the kids put their hand on it and say a prayer or what have you. But at the end of the day, your actions are absolutely essential. So when we set forth day one in the program, I asked the boys what our motto means. And it was really the introduction of our motto. And our motto is really simple. We have a saying that we want to set a standard higher than that of victory. And in 2011, I asked the entire program, who I had just met minutes prior, what that meant to them. And there was a young man that stood up, Grant Van Orden, and he absolutely nailed it. Probably explained it better than I could or anybody else. Like, he really nailed it. There's no coincidence. Grant went on to West Point and became an Army Ranger, served in the military. So that gave you an idea of the type of person that Grant was, and most importantly, the type of leader that Grant is still to this day. And what that did is it all of a sudden wasn't a motto anymore. It was a living, breathing example, right? So, hey, this is what we're talking about. And for the last X amount of years, you've known a young man who actually has lived it, who has basically been an example of that for you to see. So it was almost like I was lucky in that I tapped into something that was already there. Maybe the players just they weren't aware how unique and how special that was. And that obviously is Grant and how he went about his just life at a young age. He had maturity that was well beyond his years, and he was really essential as a team leader in that first year for us to move the program in that direction. And then I think the other thing that helps is just the consistency of the kids starting their freshman year, knowing that the head coach is going to be in place for their graduation. I think that was an incredible advantage that I had. And you don't necessarily want to be the guy that follows the guy, so to speak, because of all that pressure. And we've seen that in so many instances with sports. But in my case, there were some really good coaches that were there before me. It's just the lack of consistency was something that I feel like I had to address and let the players know that as a staff that we were committed to this. And it's not words, it's actions as well.
Okay. I mean, I love the way you lay it. Again, it makes sense, right? With all the kids that I have the pleasure of like getting to know and work with, they represent themselves extremely well. And I think they represent the program extremely well on and off the field, which goes to show the kind of quality environment. And like, you can say culture as environment, things that you do when no one's looking. I think that's one of those things that speak to true culture. So actually tracking back in your college career, you won championship with St. John's. Now, talk me through about that experience for yourself versus the experience as a coach when Don Bosco won the first state championship. Like, how is that different for you?
Right, understood. So my time at St. John's was with Ed Blankmeyer, who in the state of New Jersey and even on a national level is an incredibly respected coach. I had some really good experiences prior to St. John's. In particular, I had one coach who I was on the Legion team of. His name was Nick Farisi, and he's still with us, thank goodness. And Nick Farisi was a baseball lifer. There was another gentleman, Frank Payne, Buddy Payne, to all of us that know him well, another baseball lifer. Unfortunately, Buddy's not with us anymore. But these people had really shaped me and gotten me ready for the college experience. Obviously, my parents were incredibly essential. My siblings were incredibly essential. So when I was a player, I kind of just felt like, yeah, this is the norm, right? I had a really winning high school experience in New York. We had won 3 state championships at North Rockland High School, and summer ball we won. We traveled everywhere, and we got to play in the Legion World Series, and it just was the norm, right? Then all of a sudden you get to college, it continues. So I think as a player, you're very much aware of you're going out, you're playing, you're preparing, and you just feel like the byproduct of all of that, your effort and your team effort, is, yeah, we're going to win a championship. It's a little bit arrogant, to say the least. So it was something that, you enjoyed, but I don't know if as a player you really reflect on it. As a coach, one of the things that was great in our first year at Bosco, we played in the state championship game. We lost that game. 2015, we got back to the state championship game. We lost that game. And it was 2 incredible efforts by the opposing team, specifically their pitchers. Some of the best pitch games I had ever seen at the high school level, or even really at the college level. They were that good, the guys that we ran into. And then all of a sudden, we don't get back. We have the insanity of COVID and what have you. And then in 2022, which was our first state championship, what's unique about it is we had an incredibly talented team, but Kevin Jaxel, who's somebody I know you've met, Kevin Jaxel, as his freshman, sophomore, and junior year, he was the guy for us on the mound. And then Kevin hurt himself. He had to have Tommy John. At the time, Caden Dana just really emerged as one of the best pitchers I've ever seen at the high school level, or obviously even the college level now. So Caden kind of put the team on his back. We had a really good season, but we lost in the county tournament. We lost a really difficult game to Ramapo High School. Caden pitched. Hats off to them. They beat him. They played a wonderful game. And there was a real lull in the season because you felt like, wow, we didn't win the county championship, and we fell short of a goal, and it hurt a little bit. But the leadership of that group really stepped up. Caden especially, Kevin Jacksel especially. I don't want to leave anybody out, but certainly like a Jack Canizaro. Younger players too, and Eric Becker and Nick Licurdo, Alan Hernandez, Pablo Santos, thinking about another current Rutgers player. These guys really made a commitment not to fail. They had made a commitment day one to succeed, but now they kind of took it upon themselves to say, we're not going to fall short of our next goal. So that was our first state championship. And it was the first state championship that I personally and our staff had won together at Bosco. I started in the season of 2012. In 2022, we won our first state championship. So no matter what opinion you have of yourself, usually it's a little bit higher than the actual opinion should be. Like, you think you're a good baseball person, you think you're doing everything right, you think you're doing right by players, you're trying your best to do right by players and families. You fall short on some occasion just because of the nature of this, but your heart's really in the right place, and it takes you 10 years to get that ultimate championship. So to be very specific in answering your question, there was a lot of reflection. There was an awful lot more reflection after the 2022 season than I had ever had as a player. And I thought back really to the players that I had named before. I thought back to the 2012 players. I thought back to the 2013, 14, to the 15 players that I just mentioned, the Josh Shaws, the Danas, the older brother, Cullen Dana. And you start to just see that, wow, I understand how everybody who has come before this 2022 group, they really share in this. So that was the unique experience. You felt like as a coach, there was a lot more reflection. It was a little bit more of a culminating event, which was something that began 10 years prior. In 2023, it probably was a greater feeling of accomplishment because there were so many players on that team that stepped up, that really benefited from the 2022 experience. And as we say, learned how to win. And that was really unique. I think of Michael Staiano. I think of Jonathan Rodriguez. So many players on that team then elevated and became the next guy. The Andy Granatels of the world, Jimmy Hinspeeder, like these guys. And again, I hate to leave people out, but these guys really took the next step personally. Baseball is unique because it's a team game, but there's incredible moments of selfishness. And these players took it upon themselves to be really great. And then, of course, 2024, we had a bit of an injury situation. Lost to Del Barton in a great game, another great program we get to compete against. And 2025, we kind of came back, and so much of that is due to the outside people in our program, yourself and the people that assist our players in getting back after injury, and whether it's getting back to the mound or back to center field, catching position, whatever it is. But I feel like the 2025, this past state championship, which was our third in the last 4 years, again, it just felt like even more time to reflect on how the 2022 group is connected to the original 2012, 2015. And that's the feeling that you get when you've built a program. Or, I don't want to take too much credit, that's the feeling you get when you're fortunate enough to be the head coach of a program. And it's not just 9 through 12, it's also year 1 through year 15.
So 3 championships, 4 years. How has your approach changed now? Based on, again, there's outside accolades, there's all these other things that's coming, now again, there's learning how to win, but now there's expectation to win all the time at the highest level. Has that changed your approach in any ways, or has that changed the program in any ways, or has that changed how the kids view themselves in any ways?
Right. That's a great question. What I do think is from day one, one of the things that we were always learning is the player coming to us. Forget about baseball for a second, but what's the makeup of the player coming to us? I had been in college, so I had dealt with young men. Now we're talking to people and families that have grade 7 and grade 8 attached to their ages. So that's very, very unique. So I think the evolution of our understanding of our players has changed in that we're dealing with young people, 14-year-old kids coming into a very new setting. It's a private school. It's not a public school. Some of them have traveled a distance. Some of them have left kind of the, let's say, comfort of their childhood friends and what have you. So I think we measure that much, much more than we ever have in the years leading up to 2020. And COVID kind of made us reflect a little bit because you started to understand that kids were, unfortunately, they were really going through a difficult period, not just the period that is normal to that age, but also the world was kind of turned upside down. So I think we became more attentive to that. We became, as a staff, more attentive to the social emotional component of the kids that we deal with and making sure that they're okay, making sure that there's a conversation on daily basis is tough, I'll admit to that, but making sure there's a conversation every couple of days about something other than baseball, making sure that you know what's going on in regards to their academic stress. So that's something that we definitely have strived for. Now I feel like the next step is to understand there's pressure in coming to play at Bosco. It's a little bit of a different animal. One of the things I had said recently, and I say it often, is it bothers me when people say things such as, oh, it's like a college program. And it bothers me because it's not. We're a high school program. We have young teenagers in our program. If it was a college program, they would be 21, 22, 23-year-old players. But we have young kids. We have young kids going through their own kind of identity states and learning who they are. And we're trying to be more attentive, not only to the things that I had mentioned just prior, but also more attentive to them taking on the added pressure of coming to our program. Because the other thing that's unique about our program is our kids are competing every day. It's practice, we're competing in practice. And we're trying to get our kids, our little bit of a saying is, get them comfortable with being uncomfortable. So we want to challenge kids, but we also want to be very supportive of them as well.
Yeah, I think the one term that I really love that you just used was the term emerge, right? Especially with Kate and Dana, because of the pressure and the competition within the program itself. I feel like, and this is not uncommon for me to hear, especially with the Bosco program, that this person really stepped it up for us and then just kind of took over. Because there are, again, one person I can think of, top of my head is JJ, right? He kind of, there's that whole injury thing that happened last year, and then he just kind of came in, stepped up, and I know his family well. I know his brother. I know Alex. Alex was saying to me, he was like, yeah, man, I went away to school and I came back and I started catching for my brother, and I was like, who are you?
Right.
He was like, what happened to you?
Yep.
Right. So I think great program, great environment, great competition, friendly competition with great support staff will do that to kids. And that's what I love.
Right. I agree. And the irony is we're using this in the context of kids, but I think adults is the same way. I've even seen that in regards to players who then became coaches in our program. And I love it too in our summer camps when our players are involved with the younger kids, and you can see them take on that teacher/coach approach. And you know this as well as anybody, you can identify people that are able to connect and able to make that type of, let's just say, shift from being the person that learned the skill or acquired the knowledge to now someone that's really good at passing it along. About Bosco, I've said this to our players, and I really hope that they internalize it. The greatest resource at Bosco are the young men that attend that school, right? The players, the student athletes, the students in general, they're really the greatest resource. I don't believe that there are special places, so to speak. I believe that there are places which have very special people occupy it. And I do believe that the baseball program in particular, just because that's what I can speak of with some experience and maybe a little level of expertise, the people that are coming through there, the families that are interested in coming, I'm consistently flattered by it. I'm consistently flattered that we've been able to create something, obviously with the incredible help of administration and the school, we've been able to create something that attracts not just people, but such high level people. And that's really probably the most flattering thing about my experience at Bosco. It's not necessarily wins, losses, or anything like that, championships. It's just the amount of people that I've been able to communicate with, the people that I've been able to develop friendships with. It's flattering to think that they're looking at what we are doing and making a decision that they would like to be a part of it. I think that's probably one of the most unique things that has occurred over my time at Bosco.
I think what's great is, we just did a camp and I was there to witness this whole thing. What's great is you have someone who's been through the program, is now playing Division I, and is now gonna get drafted next year. They still come back, help out, talk to the kids, the 7th grader, the 8th grader. You mentioned Eric Becker. You have a kid who just came back from Japan, played for Team USA. He didn't need to be there for 3 hours, but he is there, and he's playing catch with one of the kids. And some of these kids are like, that's probably the closest thing you're gonna get to like a real, right? Like like a hero, like a superstar, someone they look up to. So I think that's really speak volume on where people never really feel like they leave the village and they never have an option to come back. I feel like they always find that the program is always their home. You're always the influential figure in some way where they can always come back to it and call upon throughout their whole entire career.
Yeah, and I have to include our coaches in that, because whether it's a Jim Wadika, Mike Dwyer, Brian, Joe, all the guys that Makes, Chevy, Vic, I think everyone is supportive and everyone puts players as the priority. And the thing I'll also say about our coaches is we've been together a long time. This is, you use the word kind of transient coaching and what have you. I mean, we have been together with the addition of Brian Jalalia, but about 2016, right? So that's 9 years, but everyone else was in place in 2013. So when I look at a high school baseball program that's had the same coaching staff in place for 12 years, that has to be the exception. And with that type of environment and that continuity, I think that then extends to the players. I genuinely enjoy being around our coaches. I call them friends. My children enjoy being around, and vice versa. And when you have that type of familiarity and I'll use the word love for each other, I think it does extend to the players. I think the players move on to the college level. And I think now, unfortunately, they can have very good relationships, but now we're starting to see a very significant change at the college level, not only with sometimes coaches being a little bit more transient, as you had mentioned at the high school level, now it's happening at the college level, but also players. You used to start your freshman year with someone as your roommate and you were going to graduate with them. And now at the high levels of college baseball, that hasn't necessarily been the case over the last few years. So if we do have, let's say, one final measuring stick of the job that we're doing in our program, it's the fact that players come back, that they want to be involved, that Eric Becker gets off a plane from Japan from playing with Team USA, and he shows up to the camp because he wants to hang out and have some fun with us. And that's an incredible testament. Even the week before the draft, we know that Nick was there hanging out with the kids. And listen, even my own son, hangs out. Sometimes kids want to get the heck away from their dad as much as they can. But my own son is a part of it, and it's a unique experience. I'm just very fortunate to be a part of it.
Yeah. So one thing I want to touch upon is you also play at the highest level. You were drafted 6th round You went through your own injury yourself as part of your career. Again, if you have a long career, injury will be inevitable. How important is it to the program to make sure that that you know, I would say put an emphasis on being healthy, so that way they can be available when opportunity arise.
Right. That's something that goes back. It starts with my oldest brother. My oldest brother, Jim, he was the 1-1, pick 1-1, and he's older than I am, so it's not something that people would necessarily be aware of. But he was the first pick in the country, and he was a left-handed pitcher and had incredible success. And in Double-A, in a playoff game, he slipped on a rainy, muddy, wet mound, and he tore his labrum. And ironically, it's the same type of injury, not in the same circumstance, but the same type of injury that I sustained. What I learned really from that experience was my brother, who was extremely bright, he took it upon himself to really make sure his rehab was, let's just say, the right rehab.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a while ago, so the internet's not around, and you're really rolling up your sleeves to do the research. It's not as easy as it is now. When my brother got into coaching, he really took it upon himself to make sure his players were doing the right things. And he was always trying to make sure that he was on top of, whether it's something new or old, he was on top of best practice. Mm-hmm. When I saw that level of commitment from him, from a coaching standpoint, I was really intrigued by it. But ironically, I wasn't motivated enough until I had my own injury. Mm-hmm. And then because it becomes so personal and it becomes such an impactful moment for you, you're motivated a little bit more to try to figure out, hey, what's going on? And the most frustrating thing for me as a player was trying to come back from an injury. Mm-hmm. It was extremely difficult because I don't think that at the time players were supported enough in that mental side of coming back from injury. So getting to Bosco, we always tried to figure out, who would be someone great to incorporate into our program to help our kids. And, there are a lot of quote unquote people that could go and rehab you, so to speak. But I didn't find enough people really, really vested in the player. And I have to give you that type of credit, because when we met, it was first through a phone call. And I immediately was impressed. And it was about the time, really, we had mentioned 2015, 2016. Mm-hmm. I was incredibly impressed with your desire to be helpful. Mm-hmm. Not your desire to get involved or to take over, your desire to help. And that's something that really stuck with me. And then once we were able to move the program to the place where we've been successful, and we've had the ability, as we're sitting here in our facility, in our off-season training facility, to try to take that next step. That's when I knew I wanted to reach out to you and make you a part of this on, a daily, weekly, monthly basis. So one of the things that really was a gut punch to me was I had mentioned Kevin Jaxel's injury. Mm-hmm. That was crushing, because we really did feel like, and when I say we, it's Kevin as well, and Jim Wadika. We really did feel like we did right by Kevin, that we made sure that he was not throwing too much, that we made sure that there was a proper amount of workload there, that there wasn't too much, there wasn't too little, it was kind of just right, so to speak. And he got injured, and he had Tommy John because of it. I do look back to the impact of COVID. All of a sudden, some of these kids, they lost that year. How do you really make up for that? Is throwing bullpens really, the same? In my opinion, it's not. So that really hurt. And that's when I just wanted to take a much more in-depth look about what we're doing throughout the calendar year. And we never force anybody to do anything, but we certainly provide them with the information that people like yourself and some other people that are associated on the periphery of the program allow us to learn, and we advise them what to do. And we're very fortunate in that we know Jimmy Wadika's travel program is fantastic, and we know Jimmy can help pitchers throughout and increase their knowledge of staying healthy. But we also have other people that work with our players who are not really affiliated with our program in any way, pitching coaches and things of that nature, who they really have done a nice job. They've educated themselves and they've made a commitment not just to a lesson, they've made a commitment to helping someone throughout the season. So I really owe them a debt of gratitude for that level of commitment, that they're not just putting monetary goals in front, that they're putting developmental goals and keeping kids, let's just say, injury prevention. I would love that to be literal, but at least to reduce injury likelihood, I think is probably a better way to put it. So yeah, people like yourself, like Juju, Tony Williams, they're just some really incredible people that, as I said, are on the periphery of our program. They are as committed to our athletes as anybody else is.
Yeah, I mean, for myself as well, like my communication with you has been nothing but great. I think I mentioned this time and time again, where you were probably the first coach that I was able to have conversation over half an hour, 45 minutes on. And I think our first conversation, I remember literally like to this day, was we were just talking about your approach to pitching mechanics, my approach, and what I see, what you see, what the outcome you would like based on what you see on the mound, and what outcome I would like to get that to come about. So I feel like at that point it was very symbiotic. And again, during that time I was like first year out of my PT program, just started practicing, but to be able to have a conversation with you, I remember that whole time we were talking about like just pelvis, rib cage, scapula all stacking together. I was like, hey, that's what I'm looking for when I'll pitch to pitch. I said, okay, that makes sense for me. Great, now we're on the same page. Okay, what else do we need from me? And then at that point, everything has kind of transpired. And you have guys that, again, came before me, like Vinny Perez, who's been in the game for so long, highly regarded. He's helped, again, I think he shaped baseball program in New Jersey single-handedly, because how great he is as as a physical therapist, but also someone who is a student and a lover of the game, and also invested in kids' long-term care, right? I think that's, and all the coaches you mentioned, like the pitching coach, like Tom Adley, someone who's like grind out with the kids. Like again, if I talk to Jim, if I talk to you, I talk to Tom, it's not until after 9 p.m. And we all have families, and the fact that we're all willing to talk after 9 p.m. about an individual player, that speak volume to the program, the environment, the people that you let in, right? Because it could be so easy to be, no, I can't talk.
Right.
Like, hey, okay, go figure that out, right? Which, again, that happened, like especially that happened more common when you have track record of success. It's so easy for you to hang back and say, yeah, I did this and I'm just gonna let it be where it is. I don't need to do anything else.
Well, one of the things is, in baseball, you kind of always see something new, right? No matter how long you've been around the game. But also, baseball allows you to be around some really intelligent people who, every time I talk to someone, I know I can learn something. I remember the conversation we had, and I was looking to learn as much as I was looking to converse. And I think the big thing that you just mentioned, and Tom and Jimmy and yourself, I can say this to myself, I can say Mike Dwyer and all of our coaches, we married the right woman. That's what it comes down to. Because I can so vividly recall in the early days of coaching, me having to hand my daughter to my wife as I took a phone call. And, that's the other part of this, the support that our families have given us to pursue this, and also to enjoy it. It's not a grind by any means. And one of the things that I would say, maybe I'm a little bit different, is a lot of people say something like, oh, it's all about the kids. It's all about the kids. That's kind of true, but I enjoy this, right? So I enjoy the kids then moving on to have success. But as much as I would love to sound correct and say, oh, it's all about the kids, listen, a lot of it is about the kids, but I also enjoy this. So there's a little bit of about like what I'm getting out of it. I enjoy the fact that I stay in touch with these players. I really enjoy being on a plane to Omaha to see kids, former players in the College World Series. And I really enjoy being on a plane to Anaheim to see Caden Dana make his Major League debut. So those are fun things for me. They've been bonding experiences. between the players, myself, my coaches, but also between my family. And my family, my 3 children, my wife, my mom and dad, we still talk about the success of a player, and we share in that, because it's such a unique experience to see someone come to you at a young age and then see them move into their adult life and see them to achieve their goals, and to then obviously, as I said, alluded to before, to then pass it on to the next person. One of the things I had heard when I had played with the Arizona Diamondbacks, Buck Showalter, he said that we're stewards of this game. And listen, at 20, I wasn't really sure what the heck he was talking about. But I do have a better understanding of it now, that, we're just kind of keepers of this at this point in time, and it's kind of our responsibility to pass on some of the life lessons we've learned through baseball to the next generation. And hopefully it's just a cycle that's going to continue for a long period of time. Hopefully it never stops.
Yeah, and I couldn't agree more. I mean, I never feel like I'm at work. I feel like I get to just play all day. The coolest thing now, I get to bring my daughter to work.
Yes.
And she's 6 months. I think, like, the one thing I tell my wife all the time, I want her to just witness that you can have fun at work. I think if she just, whatever she does, and the challenge for us is for her to pick the favorite team to root for, because all the pro guys that we get to help, she's going to be geared towards whatever random team,
right,
football, baseball, whatever it is. So that's going to be extremely fun and meaningful. And one thing too, just selfishly speaking, like you alluded to, is like being in this kind of environment surrounded with the kids, it just keeps me so young.
Absolutely.
I never feel like I'm old. My wife always asks me, like, what do these terms mean? My buddy who's a year older than me, he's like, hey, someone just say this to me. What does that mean?
Right.
And
right.
I'm like now like an Urban Dictionary for them. And I saw a meme. It's really funny. It's like, you make fun of Gen Z with their word of how they use something until you use it enough, and then it's become part of your vocab. I was like, oh, great.
Yes. I know what you mean. So I've been a school teacher for 25 years now, and it does keep you young. I don't know what the hell's going on with the mirror, but I know I feel the same as I did when I was 30, 35. I'm not gonna say 25, that'd be a bit of a lie, but it definitely keeps you young. I've never, ever had a negative feeling jumping in my car and going to the baseball field.
Yeah.
It's always, as the expression is, it's always something I feel like I get to do instead of I've got to do. And for that's when I speak a little bit about, it's for us too. Like I get something out of it, and it's a reward for me as well.
And and as it shows, right? Last thing I want to end on, Mike, is we talk again off camera about, again, being part of the program, especially in Bosco. There's a financial, obviously, part of it, but you do an incredible job to fundraise, to put together scholarship to help kids, where most of the, I don't think that's get covered enough, because most of the time, outside looking in, people might say, well, Bosco is a successful school, they raising all this money, where's all this money go? It probably going somewhere else. Can you just kind of break that whole notion down? Because you and I, when we have conversation that's not about player, it's always about how do we make the program better, and how do we make sure that the right kids get the right resources so they can attend and have great opportunity on the field, but also academically.
Right. So at Bosco, everything is need-based or academic-based, all right? So we certainly are very aware that there are families that want to be a part of the program, but it's difficult. And no family should have to make incredible sacrifices to send their son to Bosco. And what I mean by incredible sacrifices is, I don't want to speak to an 8th grade family whose father and mother are going to talk about getting a 3rd job or something in order to afford it. So we have some really amazing alumni, but I'm also going to say the event that you were at recently, that was to assist families at Bosco who need some support. And what we do is we never attract a family to Bosco by offering academic money. We know, that's not something that the baseball program's comfortable doing. The money that we raise is going to help families who are currently in our program, who might have fallen on some hard times, whatever, a lost job, a lost family member, or even now, just as we look at, life, like tuition increases or inflation, just things that all of a sudden didn't exist in 23, but now all of a sudden they pop up in 2025. Sometimes it's unfortunate. It's a loss in the family, and obviously that impacts the financial capability of that family. So from a coaching perspective, we do a lot of things throughout the calendar year. This place allows us incredible support. We'll hold events here. We'll do some clinics here so that we have the ability to help the families that are in need. And then also, we also give the kids a little bit more. So for example, we go to Florida, we do a day in Universal Studios. Families do pay for the trip, but they don't pay 100% for the trip. We do a golf outing where we raise money. It's definitely something that we kind of do on a need to know basis, because it's not something we put out. I never want there to be a misconception about Coach Rooney's going in to talk to a 8th grade family and he's offering them NIL money, or he's offering them, cars and condos. I mean, that's not the world by any means.
Yeah.
But what I will say is the driving force behind it is our administration has done so many great things in my time at Bosco, where unfortunately there has been a loss, a family loss. There has been a situation where the administration has stepped up and said that this young man is going to graduate from Don Bosco. That's unique. I'll also say, from my own personal perspective, I would not have been able to afford Don Bosco when I was in high school. I went to my public high school. I had a wonderful experience. I was also not the star player once I stepped on my high school campus. We had a very competitive program, similar to what Bosco is now. And really, my opportunity came as a senior. And I took advantage of it. And, thankfully, that senior year, I was then drafted by the Seattle Mariners out of high school. It led to a full scholarship to go to college. If I don't have these athletic opportunities, I don't know where I am right now. I know where I'm not. That's what I would feel very comfortable in stating. So to me, the work ethic, right? The work ethic of a young man from a family that has gratitude for the opportunity that's presented, that is the work ethic of our program, right? We have to have our work ethic match the hardest worker in our program. And to me, I find that the hardest workers in our program are ones that come to us, that realize the opportunity that they're being presented with, and they absolutely do everything in their power to maximize their potential, which then, of course, elevates everyone in our program. And I think the environment of our program, you spoke a little bit about JJ, we've referenced it with Caden Dana. It's unique because before I got to Bosco, I always, as an educator, heard peer pressure. And I connotated that with a negative expression. In our baseball program, I feel like peer pressure is an incredibly valuable thing because it motivates players to work a little bit harder. And no player is looking at the least hardest worker. They're looking at the hardest worker. Jimmy Waddick and I say to ourselves a lot that we're blessed in that our best player is our hardest worker, and our hardest worker is our best player. So that's unique. And I feel like when you have kids coming into your program who are not feeling entitled for the opportunity, they're feeling a debt of gratitude, or they're feeling just gratitude for the opportunity, they are essential in really elevating and keeping everybody working hard. And I also mean the coaches as well. We've had incredible players who have gone to the highest level of college, but in all fairness, it's not that hard to convince Kentucky to take Caden Dana, right? It's not hard to convince Virginia to take Kevin Jaxel, but the amount of effort we put forth to getting our players that Division III school or that Division II, that's really something that I think is unique. Jimmy Waddick is incredible with that. All of our coaches, I help all the time with it. It's like finding that fit, because I'm not going to tell you we have 120 players that went on to play in the SEC, right? I'm just going to tell you that we've had over 115, 120 players move on to continue their academic and their athletic, baseball, of course, careers at the college level. And those fits at the D3 level, that's where you really show that your program is different, is unique, because we've had players not get 50 innings on the mound, not get 90 at bats, but yet they still have the opportunity to go to, in some cases, incredibly high academic Division III programs, and they really take off. Those are the players that they get there. They are the best player on their team, and then after they graduate from college, that work ethic just accelerates their entry into the quote-unquote real world, and they have great success.
Yeah, I think if I can wrap it up is, again, I've been in this space long enough where I see like how kids gonna come out, especially when they face adversity, when it comes to a season-ending injury like a Tommy John. I also have seen where recruiters scout that, reach out to me personally, ask about certain characteristics, and they recruit those kids not because of talent alone, but really because of the character that they have. Because if you have someone who have so used to input equal output, and if I work equal result, they know that they can take that kid, put him in the program, and whatever happened there, the kids will come in and raise the average of the program regardless. And I think that's what people are looking for more. And you alluded to NIL earlier. With NIL, we see there's obvious financial influence when it comes to that, but those financial influence sometimes does not reflect the amount of effort that kids put in, and those effort are immeasurable, and only the individual can understand when at the end of the day they look themselves in the mirror like, have I put in my all, or am I just looking at the money in my bank account and say that's equate to what's my all has been. So I think that's what's been great, and I think this is going to be if I can put one word to it, I think that's the foundation of the program that you have built, because kids turn into young men. Again, like I have grown close to all these guys, especially the senior, like JJ Costello, like Nicky, all those guys. And again, they're like a younger brother to me, where if they call me at 9, I'm going to pick up. If they call me at whatever it is, I'm going to pick up, right? That's the whole point, is because, not because I want to be buddy with them, I just want to see them do well.
Right.
And I know when they call me, there's a need.
Right.
And, or at least they just need to kind of figure something out, which that's why I think it's incredible, where you're not just a coach, I'm not just a PT, but at this point, like you said, the word stewardess is probably the greatest word you can probably use, because you're just kind of passing everything along.
Right. Understood. Yeah. And what you just explained to yourself, I feel about yourself, I should say, I feel very fortunate, because that's what I felt in that conversation we had years ago. And as I said, when all of a sudden we were able to move the program to the next level, it was a no-brainer to bring you and your group in to work with our players, because in all honesty, you said it, whether you're a teacher, you're a physical therapist, there are certain qualities that connect with kids, qualities that then connect with people in general. And that is really supportive, it's nurturing, it's caring. And unfortunately, it's not as common as we would like it to be. So the more people like yourself that I could have be a role model and then influence our players, I'm going to obviously do my best to take advantage of it, because I know how valuable you've been for our program.
And I appreciate the opportunity. Last thing, so people who listen to this podcast, they want to support the program. What is something that they can do to help contribute?
Well, we have our annual golf outing on October 6th. So obviously you could sign up and support that in some way. There are sponsorships available. We sell scoreboard signage. We sell banners throughout the facility up at Don Bosco. And the amazing thing about the school is, when we go out as a baseball program, when we put this effort in, it stays in the baseball program, and it goes to the causes that we have and the needs that we have, as opposed to, in some places, some money might get kind of siphoned off for a different project. So again, my gratitude to the administration on they allow us to strive to be as self-sufficient as possible. And really we do it because of the events that we have, and then also the overall graciousness of so many people, that some have gone through the program and others have just, in a sense, watched the program and have decided that they want to assist in some way because they believe in our goal, you know, in our mission, so to speak. So we have a website, Don Bosco Prep Baseball. There are always ways to donate if possible, and you can always get in touch, obviously, with myself or anybody in the administration and figure out ways to support.
Awesome. Mike, thank you so much for your time. That was
Thank you.
great. I've learned so much. And again, guys, please support the program. If you have anything, reach out to Mike directly and some other coaches. So thank you so much, Mike.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Natty.